Ever fire off a text and, oh, the emojis just don't land right, and suddenly you're in this, like, communication black hole, that momentary panic. Now imagine that's your daily life.
Mm.
And you start to get a sense of what folks with TBI are dealing with. You
Mhm.
sent me some really powerful research on communication barriers post-TBI, so listeners, buckle up, because we are going deep on this one.
It's amazing, isn't it, how we cruise through conversations, taking communication for granted, until bam, something disrupts it. And your sources. Spot on. They emphasize how, yeah, TBI comes with physical challenges, but those communication roadblocks,
Yeah.
they can be the longest lasting and have this ripple effect on every aspect of life.
Totally. It's so much more than just, struggling to find the right word sometimes. One article used this really interesting example of, say, someone saying, oh, that's just great, when clearly things are not great. Sarcasm. The research pointed out that for someone with TBI, the mental gymnastics to unpack that kind of nuanced meaning, that can be a real struggle.
And it's a perfect illustration of this key point from your research.
Yeah.
TBI doesn't just impact what we say, it impacts how we extract meaning. Like, imagine hearing a foreign language, you might catch the words, but the subtle stuff, the real message, it's lost.
Wow. Okay, yeah. I'm already seeing how much deeper this goes. So
Right.
even if someone's hearing you fine, their brain might not be processing it the same way. And you sent me research on some less obvious barriers too, right? Like beyond just finding the right words.
And that's where these sneakier challenges come in. You're trying to keep up with the conversation, but your memory is full of holes, or you can't tune out distractions, so it's like trying to listen to a radio with a signal all staticky. That's what your research says processing information can be like after a TBI. Then add in, say, difficulty even speaking clearly, which we know is common.
Because the muscles involved in speech aren't working quite right. Is that it? I remember one article mentioned dysarthria.
Precisely. Dysarthria, think of it like those speech muscles are doing their own thing, making words jumbled, hard to understand. Or picture trying to follow a conversation in a packed, loud room, but your brain can't filter out the extra noise. Sensory overload on top of everything else.
Oh man. So me saying great job to someone who, I don't know, spills their coffee, probably not the best move then.
Yeah, you're going to want to rethink that one. And that actually highlights a big point in the research, how these misunderstandings can lead to someone with TBI feeling incredibly isolated.
Right, like in that one quote, how these less visible struggles often get mistaken for someone being difficult or rude, which, when you think about it, is heartbreaking.
It is, and it underscores why understanding the why behind those communication meltdowns is so important. And that leads right into that next level of research you sent, the emotional and behavioral changes after TBI.
Yeah, because that's got to tie directly back to how we communicate, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Your research talks about emotional dysregulation after TBI. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. You desperately want to express yourself, but it's like you're trapped and people are constantly misinterpreting you. Frustration, anger, those are understandable reactions.
And if someone isn't totally self-aware after the injury, they might not even realize that their reaction is, I don't know, out of proportion, right?
Absolutely. It's like this disconnect between what they're trying to communicate and how it's being perceived.
Yeah.
And this is where those informed communication partners, family, friends, but also healthcare providers, therapists, it's on everyone to step up.
Big time. Your sources, they really drove home the importance of patience and empathy. And wow, one study mentioned that over 60% of people with TBI are still dealing with significant communication difficulties years later.
It's a huge number, and it speaks to the urgency for more awareness.
Hmm.
We need to change the script, recognize that maybe that outburst, that frustration, it's rooted in the inability to get their needs met, not because they're trying to be difficult.
So listeners, here's something to sit with. If communication is how we each experience the world, how might that world look, sound, and feel different through the lens of someone with TBI?